My name is Henry Race. We're here with Lynn Health. I'll tell you a little bit about what we've got going on, about brain body techniques for managing chronic pain. We'll get to do a little bit of practice, and then I'll open it up for a question and answer at the end there. If people are watching this and are in chronic pain and considering joining Lynn for our services, you can schedule an intake call at the end of this webinar. Our friend Alyssa is here to keep tabs on the chat and answer questions that folks might have. And if anyone has any questions about scheduling, Alyssa can help you out with that. So Lynn Health, what are we? What are we doing? I mean, you probably know a little bit because you're here on this webinar, but we are a health app that helps people manage chronic pain, either reducing that pain or even recovering completely from it. And we're using a whole suite of mind-body techniques. A lot of times people go to a bunch of different doctors and there isn't really a clear diagnosis. People are kind of trying out different things to different degrees of success or not. And we're learning there's cutting edge research about primary pain. This is actually a fairly new diagnosis that when there isn't a disease or an underlying structural issue in the body, there could be some kind of miscommunication between the brain and body. And there's some signals there that are telling you that there's pain when there's not actually a physical problem. And so that's primary pain. And then we could use different techniques to tune into our body, to change our mindset, change our relationship with the pain, and overall feel a lot better and feel reduced sensations, reduced pain, and have a lot better quality of life. And so that's what we're here to do. We have a whole program and a whole suite of tools. It's a whole toolbox from things like cognitive behavioral therapy, different somatic techniques, which I'm going to talk about today, unpacking emotions, all kinds of techniques that we use to tune in and see what works for the individual. That's another part of what we do is that we have one-on-one coaching. And so you can work with a pain recovery coach that'll help you throughout the program, answer questions you might have, kind of keep you on track, and just make sure that you're getting what you need to live a higher quality life and to help manage your pain. Me personally, I am a certified holistic life coach, and I am studying somatic experiencing. That is one of a number of modules of somatics. So I'll jump in and see, define that. What is somatics? Somatics is a broad term that means body and sensation-based practices, generally in movement, dance, body work, and in therapy. And so why somatics? Why tuning into the body? Well, trauma lives in the body. We have a long history of psychiatry, psychology, hundreds of years of study of, how does our mind work? How do we process or not process trauma? And a lot of it is cognitive based in our mind. And what we're finding out in the past several decades, and even very recently with cutting edge research, is that a lot of what we experience as people and in our day-to-day lives, in our history, in our relationships, is in our body. It's in our nervous system. And so trauma is not in the past. It's in the present with us. A lot of therapies look to the past, which can be very helpful to unpack what's happened to you, where you're at, where you want to go. But it's really helpful that we can work with how our trauma is showing up in the body right now. So I'll just go into some nervous system basics, like what does that look like? What does that mean? And then we can practice some techniques that will help us regulate our nervous systems. So the way it works is we have a sympathetic and parasympathetic. Our sympathetic nervous system is activating. We'll hear a noise. We might get a little scared. Our heart starts pumping harder. Blood pressure increases. Our breath might change. And we have all these physical symptoms, physical attributes, that are happening in our body to get us prepared for a potential fight or flight. So a little bit of activation is normal. Even if you hear a loud noise and you're slightly startled, you might not even be fully activated, just slightly, and that's totally normal. And then normally what happens is your body kind of comes up and the energy eventually kind of dissipates. You can feel your heart kind of return to normal. You feel a little less tense, a little less jittery. Everything kind of smooths out. sometimes when we get very activated, it gets to that fight or flight stage where we're ready to pounce. We might want to leave the situation. We're feeling scared. We're feeling maybe slightly overwhelmed. And that's our sympathetic nervous system has come online to protect us, to help us get out of a dangerous situation if we need to. And then that parasympathetic is once we realize that the danger has passed, once we're feeling safe and okay, the parasympathetic nervous system comes online and everything kind of gets back to our baseline, ideally. Without getting too much into it, there's some really cutting edge research and things around polyvagal theory. So like a scientist has done a lot of studying and a lot of research around the neurology and neurobiology and stuff. And over the past decade, it's been kind of like translated into more practical applications. What does this mean for medical diagnosis? What does this mean for therapy? And so the polyvagal theory essentially just kind of looks at our nervous system on these levels from freeze, so kind of opposite of the fight or flight response, like extreme activation, is serious deactivation where it's freeze. That's our most basic survival response. And so some people, when they get very traumatized, that's their default mode. They just kind of shut down. So people who are in very deep depression, people who, when they feel overwhelmed, they can't speak, they can't do anything, they're kind of frozen. And that's a basic survival response, like the deer in the headlights, right? Like it can actually help animals survive by pretending to be dead, like the whole play dead with certain animals. That's where that freeze response comes in, and it's a shutdown. The next level up is when we get activated, and it's that fight or flight response where we're really highly charged. We might want to fight, we might want to flee and get out of there. Our heart's pounding. And that's the next level up. And a lot of people experience that often. People get really easily upset. They might have anger issues. They might have tension. Their body's constantly tensing up. I personally have gone through that with a lot of tension in my shoulders all the time, constantly reminding myself to let go. And then the kind of higher order on our nervous system is our vagal connection. We have a vagus nerve, and we connect to other mammals. All mammals have this. It has a whole lot of interesting stuff that we're not going to get into today. But the long and short of it is that it's connection with other people or even other animals. That's why we enjoy pets so much. It's connecting with other mammals or other animals and feeling safe, feeling regulated, feeling secure. Everything's okay. Maybe even everything's happy and joyful, that I'm with friends, I'm in a comfortable environment, I'm in my home. And that's kind of where we want to spend a lot of our time. It doesn't make sense to be there all the time. There are times where we're going to get scared or activated. There are times where we're going to shut down and freeze. But that should all be within a healthy pattern, right? Like we have our own rhythms, quite literally. The problem comes in that we get activated over and over and over again, and we come up, and as we're coming down, something else gets us, and we're activated again. And before we can really fully come down, something stimulates us, and we're activated again. And a lot of people in modern society are overactivated. We're overstimulated, we're overstressed, and there's that chronic activation. And that can lead to a lot of internal tension, unresolved emotional or psychological issues, and then it becomes unresolved physical issues. A metaphor that I like is, imagine you're in a car. I'm not a fan of car culture, but it makes a lot of sense when you think about this. You got your foot on the gas pedal. You want to go, go, go. We're in that activated state. But something is holding us back. Maybe we're shoving our emotions to the side. Maybe we're just ignoring the pain and we're focusing on what we've got to do. And it's like slamming on the brake. And so you've got your foot on the gas and your foot on the brake at the same time. That engine is revving and revving underneath. On the surface, it doesn't really look like much is going on. You're not going anywhere. But underneath, there's all this energy churning under there. And if that energy isn't released, if it's not addressed, or if we don't take our foot off of the gas pedal, then something's probably going to go wrong, right? Something in that engine is going to burn out, or the car is going to take off suddenly. And where did that come from? Came out of nowhere. Might come to a halt suddenly. We don't really want in our day-to-day lives a lot of herky-jerky action in our relationships and our workplace, just internally with our own emotions and sensations. And we certainly don't want to have something stuck inside of us, this energy in our nervous system that's potentially going to lead to something like chronic pain, right? We have a little twinge, and instead of addressing it, what's underlying, we ignore it and it gets worse. Maybe we go to a doctor and they can't find anything physically wrong because it's really just this tension that's inside of us. So, what do we do about that? We're going to get into it in just a few minutes. I want to make sure I'm covering my bases with what I wanted to talk about today. So, all that stuff that I'm talking about, it's basically dysregulation of our nervous system. We would like to feel safe and comfortable and connected. Oftentimes we're not, and that can happen an awful lot. And then we start developing these patterns where we're oversensitive to certain stimuli or maybe undersensitive. And that's our dysregulated nervous system. And so how do we get back to that? There's different methods around somatics. That's what we're talking about here, is a particular method. And in the context of Lynn, like I mentioned earlier, we have a whole suite of tools. So it's not strictly somatics or it's not strictly cognitive behavioral therapy. We kind of touch on a lot of different tools and see what works best. Some people might respond better to the psychological tools. Some people really respond to the somatic tools. It's a kind of a staple of what we do is tuning into the body and have all different techniques for calming our nervous system, trying to keep calm during a pain flare if things get really bad. A lot of our thoughts, our patterns, whatever, just kind of flies out the window. We're thinking, oh man, I'm dealing with this really terrible pain right now. What do I do? And hopefully we can recall these techniques, maybe breathing techniques or psychological techniques, which we'll touch on in just a moment. A few different methods of somatics, but they all share something in common, which is somatic tracking. And that's what we do at Lynn. So that's paying close attention to our physical sensations in our body. And we do it in different ways. Oftentimes we're focusing on neutral sensations, just like your feet on the floor. We're going to get to this real soon. It could be positive sensations, things that bring us joy, happiness. What does that feel like in the body? And then, of course, especially when dealing with chronic pain, what's the discomfort? What are the painful sensations like? And how can we explore them? And the reason that we do this is to have corrective experiences. So certain physical sensations get associated with danger or pain. I just was speaking with a member at Lynn about their parents. There's a young person. Their parents had moved all the way across the country, and they're dealing with chronic pain. And they noticed when they went and visited their parents, it was a new environment. They never grew up in this household. They're very far away from what they had typically thought of as home. And they noticed that their pain got worse. And so that was a connection, this proof of this mind-body connection is nothing happened to them. They didn't fall, they didn't injure themselves, hurt themselves. Just being in an unfamiliar environment where they have familiar family, mom and dad, in an unfamiliar environment, and they're feeling a little weird, a little stressed out, the pain gets worse. So there's this direct association there. And so we need to learn how to pay attention to that association and what that feels like in order to have these corrective experiences. So we can explore the sensations with the realization that we're safe and that these sensations don't equal danger. And that, over time, is going to help rewire the brain. Like I was saying in the beginning, there's a miscommunication sometimes between brain and body signals that causes chronic pain. Something I like to say is like, imagine there's a fire and the brain pulls the fire alarm. And then over time, it's gotten so used to pulling that fire alarm that even when there's no smoke, no fire, the brain is still pulling the fire alarm and you're still feeling this pain. Well, we have to learn how to calm down and realize that just because you heard a loud noise, just because you're in an unfamiliar environment, doesn't mean that we have to pull that pain signal. So having these corrective experiences over time is going to help us rewire the brain. We learn that these sensations, these environments, these triggers that normally would trigger pain don't have to equal a danger signal, don't have to equal a pain signal. And so we can kind of rewire our brain over time. And the big part of this is observation, it's curiosity, it's being open to exploring the experience. For the first part of the work that we do when we have members, we try not to get into the mindset of we need to come in, we need to fix this. This is something that's broken. I got to fix it right now. We're going to make the pain go away. It takes a little while. It's a process. We have to trust in the process. And so we want to reframe the way we relate to the pain. And that's being open and curious. And that's going to give us a lot better results than if we come in with intensity and this strong desire to fix things and have a really clear outcome. It's more about the journey than the destination. So with all that being said, I would like to try some techniques together. I'm just going to kind of give us a taste of a few different things and take us a little bit through kind of a spectrum of sensations within ourselves, and talk about how that can be helpful, why we do these things. And then hopefully you get to experience a little bit in yourself, maybe learn a little something new about yourself or about your body or sensations. If you are dealing with chronic pain, maybe this is just a glimpse into, understanding that pain a little bit better. And then, like I said, if you are interested, we can schedule an intake call to discuss it further with members of our team. So I would like to invite you all, and I'm going to sit here in my chair and do this with you. I'd like you to just get comfortable. I'm assuming you're probably sitting in a chair or on a couch. And we're just going to take a moment to feel our body in this moment. Feel your body in the chair. My feet are on the ground. I'm wearing socks. And I encourage you to feel your feet wherever they might be, even if they're up on a table or whatever. Let's just pay attention to where your feet are. Feel gravity. You can feel your bottom in the chair, feel your back supported by the chair, whether it's a hard chair or a squishy chair. Just notice those sensations. Where your hands are, maybe your hands are on your lap. What does that feel like? What is the texture of the clothing you're touching or the pressure of the surface that your hands are on? And we're just tuning into this moment and what we're noticing in our body right now. To help us do that, I'm going to invite you to just look around and just let your eyes kind of find something in the room, whatever seems interesting. And non-judgmentally, we're just going to notice something about it. Maybe the color, the shape, and just see how you feel in your body. Are you intrigued by this? Are you bored? Are you happy about it? Maybe it's a familiar object that brings you some smile on your face. And just look around. We're going to do 3 objects. We'll just look around and notice 3 things in the room. So I did one. Let's find a second one. Again, maybe something about the texture, the color, the shape of it. And then noticing what's in our bodies. Does anything change? And right now, we're just trying to get a baseline. Maybe one more object. Just seeing what's here in this room. How do I feel right now? Okay. So now what we're going to do is and I encourage you to close your eyes if it helps or not. Some people like to close their eyes and visualize things with their eyes closed. Some people like to keep their eyes open. Some people have very good reason for not wanting to close their eyes and take their mind somewhere else. So whatever's comfortable for you. I'm going to invite you to think about one person, place, or thing, activity even, that brings you joy, comfort, familiarity. If you're thinking of a loved one, like a family member that you really care about, or if you're thinking of a place, maybe a place that you can just get away. It's really safe, no time constraints. You feel welcome, invited, comfortable, a safe space for you. And so when you think about this loved one or this loved thing or this place that you just love, it's maybe a vacation or a safe place for you to just get away. What do you notice in your body? Is there any tension or release of tension? Does your breathing change? Do you feel anything in your extremities? I'm feeling a little tingling in my hands, actually. A little tingling in my feet. Is there any motion? If you feel a tingling or a vibrating or radiating, Is it moving, like bubbling upwards? Is it sinking down? Is there a temperature change? Some people feel a little cooler, maybe on their skin. Oftentimes, when we think of loved ones and think of places that bring us joy, there's a little bit of warmth, often in the core, like kind of in the chest or in the body, in the main part of the body. If you have a picture of a loved one nearby, that could be very helpful too, to just look at their face and see what happens. Oftentimes, the first thing we'll notice is a smile. But then thinking about, there's a little bit of tingling in my cheeks. There's a little bit of warmth in my face and in my chest. We're just noticing these positive sensations. And this is really helpful in the context of chronic pain, because so often we get so focused on the pain that we forget what these positive sensations are like. And we kind of overlook opportunities for connecting with people, connecting with what we're doing, and just feeling a sense of happiness and joy in our bodies because we're so focused on the pain. And this is also part of the helping rewire, especially if someone is really feeling depressed or just feeling really lousy and they haven't felt good in a long time. So we want to remind people, or even learn, what does joy and ease and comfort in the body feel like? Maybe a sense of excitement. And the same with the same with neutral sensations, where we started when we were just paying attention to our hands, our feet, our body. That can help us take our mind off the pain. That can show us that there's so many sensations that we're experiencing day to day that aren't pain, that are just normal sensations. So we often get so fixated on the pain. If we could start learning to open our perception to the normal sensations of just walking to the kitchen, pouring ourselves a cup of tea, and we aren't so focused on the pain, we realize, the pain doesn't feel so bad because I'm aware of so much other stuff and I'm not just hyper-focused on the pain itself. So I'd like us to, what I tell people is when we're doing the positive sensation tracking, the thing like the loved one or a comfy place, I'd like to put a bookmark there, put a little pin in it, and just see if you could recall what that feels like in the body. Like, when I thought of my loved one, I had this tingle in my chest and I felt warm and my toes felt a little funny. And I've got this rising sensation kind of from the top of my foot and my ankle moving upward. Okay, let's hold on to that, whatever that might be for you. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to slide over gently and ask you to think of something in the past few days or week that annoyed you. If you're dealing with chronic pain and you're in a place where the pain is very manageable, very mild, you're not feeling overwhelmed by it, then we could explore the pain too. If the pain is really high, we're not going to go there today, right? This is just an introduction. This is just a taste of what we're doing. So we don't want to delve too deep in this just introductory webinar here. But if you have very mild pain or no pain, let's think of something annoying and pay attention to what changes in your body. If you were thinking of a loved one and you had a warmth in your chest, did that warmth go away? If you were feeling nice and relaxed and easy, when you thought of that annoying thing, did you feel a little bit of tension somewhere? A little uneasiness in your gut? Maybe a little tension in your shoulders, your arms? Oftentimes when we are feeling kind of yucky in some way, the body wants to tense up, which is often also related to chronic pain. If we have chronic tension that we aren't aware of, and that tension is there 24/7 and just tightening up into this terrible knot, then we're asking ourselves, what's wrong? Where is this pain coming from? Well, maybe we didn't even notice that there is this underlying tension for the past 3 months or 3 years or what have you. So we're paying attention to when we felt annoyed, what changed in our body? And we can remind ourselves, we're here now today. It's Friday. We're not dealing with that situation. That's over. It's in the past. We're in this webinar. It's the middle of the day on Friday. Everything's okay, right? We can remind ourselves. So we do that with the pain. We can do that in this moment right now, that we're just remembering and we're just exploring. It's just curiosity. When I got annoyed, something probably changed in my body. So when I think about that annoying thing, what do I notice right now? And so hopefully you've noticed something that's happened internally. And to wrap things up here, we're going to try and shift back over to that positive sensation. We were thinking of a loved one or a cozy place in our lives, a very welcome spot, somewhere where we felt really nice and warm and welcome and safe. And can you recall what that was like in your body? It's not a mental thing, it's a physical thing. Can you feel it? I still feel it in my feet, a little less so in other places. So hopefully, as I've been guiding this practice, you've been able to follow along and you've been able to tune into your body and listen to what are the positive sensations, what are the neutral sensations, what do I feel when I'm focusing on pain or something annoying from this past week, and noticing those little shifts internally. So often in our lives, in our world, in this society we live in, we're very much in the mental sphere. We're always thinking about things, and we're not always listening to our body. And so when, in any situation really, I think this goes across the board for life, but particularly for dealing with like illnesses and chronic pain and such, syndromes, there's a lot that our body is trying to tell us, related to our emotions, related to our thoughts, related to our actions, to our environment. It's giving us clues all the time. And it kind of behooves us to pay more attention. And so that's what this is about, is using that attention to our bodies to track what's happening somatically, internally. What are the connections between thoughts, emotions, and our physical sensations? And how can we use that to kind of uncouple these things that have gotten bound up within us to get free of tension, pain, discomfort? So thanks for taking the time here. I want to remind us that we have some time here at the end for questions and answers. Alyssa is here to help out as well. We have free intake calls if you want to schedule a call for just like 20 minutes to chat about your situation, what you're experiencing, what your history has been, maybe successes or a lack thereof with different doctors, different approaches you've tried. And we can see if Lynn is a good fit for you. And it turns out that for a lot of people with a lot of conditions, it goes from chronic pain, lower back pain, things like irritable bowel syndrome, CRPS, chronic regional pain syndrome, TMJ, a lot of these chronic conditions that don't have easy answers. We work with these people and we see really good results. So I'm seeing the questions starting to roll in here. What do we have? Yeah, I see Shannon. Yep. So we do have two programs. Or two kind of levels. One is where you meet with a coach twice a week, and another is where you meet with a coach 4 times a week. So hopefully we fit within your budget if people are concerned about that. Something I like to think about is if you think about all the money that's been spent on medications, surgeries, doctors, specialists, all that stuff, and think about how much a monthly subscription costs here, there's probably a lot of value that we can bring from the Lynn side of things. For working with a coach and working through the program over the course of several months. Riverside, will this be recorded? It is. I am not sure what's going on with the recording. I think Alyssa can answer that one about if the recording will be available. How can I pass this on to a small group of people? I'm not sure what exactly you're asking there, Diane. If it's you're wanting to forward information about Lynn, our website is lynn.health, and we have a lot of information right there on the website, from the science to the program to reviews from current and former members. So please feel free to share the website and information. We're on social media. We're actually gaining some traction on Instagram. So there are a number of channels to find us and share us. And I see Alyssa gave the link. Yep, emails will be, or the recording will be emailed. Have you ever worked with hypnosis? I personally don't have training in hypnosis and have not done hypnosis with other folks. I've done a little bit myself, like receiving hypnosis in various forms, either with a practitioner or kind of self-guided hypnosis. Can be very powerful. We don't do hypnosis at Lynn. Working with the subconscious mind is a very powerful and sensitive thing. So that is not within our toolbox. That being said, we do have some people on staff who do have some experience with hypnosis. So when you sign up to become a member of Lynn, there's a coach matching process, and you can actually request to work with someone who has a particular interest or specialty. We have physical therapists and other folks. I see. Oh, okay. I thought I had some messages there. So I don't work with hypnosis, and it's not a major part of Lynn, but there are people at Lynn who do have some experience there. I'll take a few more here because we're just at 1:30, and so I'll just answer a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap it up today. Vestibular disorders, vertigo, migraine from concussion 6 years ago. Yeah, I actually was working with a guy who has some neuropathy and had some vertigo. We were actually able to work through the vertigo very quickly. He doesn't experience vertigo anymore, and now we're dealing with a lot of actually emotional and social stuff in his life and seeing how that relates to the neuropathy that he's experiencing. So it depends. Again, I would highly recommend scheduling an intake call so we can work through the details. I will also say everybody gets to do a diagnostic visit with a doctor in-house. So if we decide that this is a pretty good fit and that you are a likely candidate with primary pain, then you do talk to a doctor on staff at Lynn to just double check and make sure that they feel it's a good fit. Thanks, Jane. I'm glad you had a good reminder. I would say, there's a lot of videos and resources online for practice. So hopefully finding something with you, and then maybe working with a coach one-on-one at Lynn would be very helpful as well. Yep, seeing answers here in the chat about how long are sessions. Yep, Alyssa's saying we have work with post-concussion syndrome and migraines. Yep, I have 2 people actually currently that I'm working with around migraines, and that's something that I actually have experienced myself, more in childhood and occasionally as an adult. It's my relation to pain. Yep, thanks, Alyssa, for reminding Jane that it takes practice, it takes time. Yeah, at first, we might not be used to tuning into our body and our sensations, and it does take practice. Any little thing that you notice, I think sometimes it's generalized. You might feel a little bit of just an ease, a tension, a release. It's not one specific spot in your body. It's just a general feeling, and that's a good start, right? Breathing techniques, there's all kinds of breathing techniques. Some people, breathing techniques are really good things. Some people who have panic disorders and such, breathing techniques could actually be triggering. But we do have a whole lot of resources. We advocate certain types of breathing techniques for pain flares in the moment, as well as breathing techniques for soothing the nervous system over time, along with like meditation, yoga nidra, tai chi, things like that. Yep. And it looks like Alyssa has answered a lot of the questions there. So I just want to say thanks so much, folks, for coming and tuning in today and practicing a little bit of somatic tracking with me. It's something I'm really excited about. And of course, being with Lynn and helping people manage their chronic pain and seeing results. I've been with Lynn since October of last year. And just between then and now, seeing people in a much better quality of life, much less pain, a different relationship to their pain, because that's a big focus. If we could just turn the volume down, we would just do that. So how do we reframe our relationship to our pain?